The day following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, the balance of power within the royal family quietly began to change. Almost instantly, Prince William found himself in charge of one of Britain's most influential and lucrative royal estates. Vast ancient lands, historic buildings, and a financial empire that had grown over centuries suddenly came under his authority. Yet only weeks later, a surprising decision sent shockwaves through royal circles, particularly among relatives of Queen Camilla. A long-trusted family figure was discreetly removed from the payroll, sparking whispers along palace corridors. What exactly happened inside the estate, and why did it provoke such tension? The crown's hidden empire had passed into William's hands. On September 8, 2022, the world received the news that forever changed the path of the British royal family. At Balmoral Castle in the Scottish Highlands, Queen Elizabeth II died after ruling for more than 70 years. Within hours, centuries of royal tradition sprang into action. Titles shifted, responsibilities evolved, and authority quietly moved from one generation to the next. At the heart of this historic moment stood Prince William. When his father ascended the throne as King Charles III, William gained far more than a new title. According to long-established royal law, he automatically became the Duke of Cornwall, placing him in control of the powerful Duchy of Cornwall. To many people, the title might sound ceremonial or symbolic, but in reality it represents one of the most valuable and influential private estates anywhere in the world. Almost overnight, William became responsible for a vast agricultural and financial empire valued at around $1.2 billion. The duchy spans roughly 135,000 acres across England. These are not simply scattered plots of land or a handful of farms. The estate consists of entire landscapes that have been carefully managed and expanded for generations. Rolling farmland, historic villages, tenant farms, coastal holdings, and investment portfolios all form part of this complex network. Among the most remarkable elements of this inheritance are lands connected to the Isles of Scilly, an archipelago located off the coast of Cornwall, known for its dramatic cliffs, crystal-clear waters, and centuries-old settlements. The duchy controls nearly the entire island chain, giving the estate influence over one of Britain's most distinctive coastal regions. Its reach extends even further. Large stretches of land run into Devon, including areas near the rugged terrain of Dartmoor. Additional properties lie across Herefordshire and Somerset, regions famous for fertile farmland, historic estates, and deep agricultural traditions. Together, these holdings form a network that has steadily grown in value for hundreds of years. For William, this inheritance represented far more than prestige. The Duchy of Cornwall generates millions of dollars annually through farming rents, commercial leases, tourism properties, and financial investments. That income helps support the work and official duties of the heir to the throne. In other words, William did not simply inherit land. He became responsible for overseeing a vast private economic system closely tied to the future of the monarchy itself. Yet, the magnitude of this transition was easy to miss. While the public focused on mourning a beloved queen and watching the rise of a new king, another story quietly unfolded behind the scenes. A 40-year-old prince had suddenly become one of the largest landowners in Britain, tasked with making decisions that could affect thousands of people living and working across those estates. For nearly 7 centuries, the Duchy of Cornwall has belonged to the monarch's eldest son and heir to the throne. Each new duke inherits not only the land, but also the duty to guide it forward into the future. Now, that responsibility rested with William. But as he began examining the extensive network of finances, contracts, and employees connected to the estate, it quickly became clear that change was approaching. The first decisions he made would send unexpected ripples through the royal household. What pressures hide beneath 7 centuries of royal tradition? As William stepped into control of the Duchy of Cornwall, which choices would spark whispers, rivalries, and secrets the public was never meant to see? Let's take a closer look. The decision that unsettled the duchy's inner circle as the weight of his new role settled in, Prince William turned his attention to the less visible side of his inheritance, the duchy's vast lands, historic properties, and the complex web of finances, contracts, and professional relationships built over decades. If he intended to guide this centuries-old estate into the future, one thing was clear: a thorough review of its management was necessary. Royal estates of this scale cannot operate on tradition alone. Every property, tenant farm, rental cottage, and commercial investment forms part of a massive financial structure. William quietly began reviewing accounts, operations, staffing, decision-making processes, and the flow of money throughout the estate. To those familiar with how his father, Charles, had managed the duchy for decades, such an evaluation may have seemed routine, but it soon led to a decision that surprised many within royal circles. One name drew particular attention: Annabel Elliot. She was far more than just an interior designer. Annabel was Queen Camilla's younger sister and a trusted member of the extended royal family. Over the years, she had developed a strong reputation for blending traditional English country aesthetics with modern comfort. Her work appeared in several duchy properties, especially holiday cottages rented across England and Wales. Her connection to the estate began after Charles married Camilla in 2005. At the time, Charles, then the Prince of Wales and Duke of Cornwall, hired Annabel to design and oversee interiors for several duchy residences. Over nearly 2 decades, she became a familiar presence within this professional network, shaping the look and atmosphere of properties now associated with the estate. Financial records show her annual payments ranged between £19,625 and £82,272. Compared with the enormous value of the duchy, those amounts were modest. But her role represented something deeper: the close professional circle that had surrounded Charles during his long stewardship of the estate. Then William assumed control. After reviewing the duchy's structure and spending, he quietly decided that Annabel Elliot would no longer be employed by the estate. Her nearly 20-year role came to an end. There was no public criticism and no dramatic announcement. Reports emphasized that the decision was not a reflection of her talent or previous contributions. Yet within royal circles, the message was unmistakable. William was beginning to reshape the duchy according to his own priorities, signaling a shift toward appointing individuals he personally trusted. At the same time, several of William's close associates began appearing in duchy roles, including people with personal connections to him and his children. For observers, the message was becoming increasingly clear. A new generation of royal leadership was beginning to emerge. For some members of Camilla's extended family, the change felt like a door that had long remained open was suddenly closing. What seemed on the surface to be a routine staffing decision quickly took on deeper symbolic meaning within the fragile network of royal relationships. To understand why the move carried such emotional weight inside palace walls, it is important to look at the complicated personal history connecting William, Camilla, and the events that shaped their family years before he ever inherited the duchy. What might appear to outsiders as a straightforward managerial decision was, in reality, the first sign of a generational shift, one that could influence the future of the duchy and reshape the dynamics of the royal family itself. Behind the elegant halls of the duchy, old tensions and quiet loyalties continued to linger. Was William's decision purely about professional management, or did it echo deeper family history, quietly influencing the monarchy's future in ways few people outside the palace could truly understand? Let's explore the story further. Shadows from the past still shaping the present to many observers. Annabel Elliot's removal from the Duchy of Cornwall payroll looked like nothing more than routine administration. A new duke reviewing the estate, adjusting staff positions, and reorganizing leadership something that might naturally follow a major transition. But within the royal family, very few decisions exist entirely on their own. History has a way of resurfacing, even in the smallest actions. And in this situation, the past stretches back several decades. To truly understand why the decision carried emotional weight, it is impossible to overlook the long and complicated history surrounding Prince William and his family. Long before he ever inherited the duchy, William grew up during one of the most painful and widely publicized periods in modern royal history. At the center of that chapter stood his mother, Princess Diana, during the early years of her marriage to King Charles III. Diana quickly became one of the most beloved figures in the world. Her warmth, compassion, and ability to connect with ordinary people dramatically reshaped the public image of the monarchy. But behind the scenes, the marriage was struggling. The relationship between Charles and Camilla had never completely faded, and over time it became increasingly difficult to keep hidden. In 1994, Charles publicly acknowledged the relationship during a highly publicized interview. The admission confirmed years of speculation and placed Diana in an incredibly painful position. For the public, the revelation was shocking. For the two young princes within the family, it was deeply personal. William and his younger brother Harry were still children as they watched their parents' marriage unravel under intense global attention. Newspapers across Britain and around the world filled their pages with headlines, photographs, and constant commentary. The private challenges within their family became daily public discussion. It was an experience that profoundly shaped how both boys would later view loyalty, family, and the responsibilities tied to royal life. Then tragedy struck. In August 1997, the world was stunned by the sudden death of Princess Diana in a car accident in Paris. William was just 15 years old at the time. His brother Harry was only 12. Almost overnight, the two princes became powerful symbols of national grief. Millions of people watched as they walked behind their mother's coffin during the funeral procession, a moment that remains etched in public memory. The loss left a lasting mark on both of them. They were not only sons mourning their mother, but also young members of a royal institution searching for stability during an emotionally overwhelming period. Over time, the family slowly began to move forward. Charles eventually married Camilla in 2005. William attended the ceremony and publicly showed respect for his father's decision. During official engagements, he has maintained a calm and courteous relationship with his stepmother, never allowing personal history to turn into open conflict. But respect does not automatically erase the past, nor does it mean that professional decisions inside a powerful royal estate are made without careful consideration. As Duke of Cornwall, William carries the responsibility of treating the duchy as a serious business, one where influence cannot simply be determined by family connections. Viewed from that perspective, his recent actions appear less personal and more strategic. The responsibility placed on his shoulders is immense. The Duchy of Cornwall is not merely a collection of picturesque estates or historic houses. It functions as a powerful financial institution that supports the heir to the throne and contributes to the long-term stability of the monarchy. And the deeper William examined the scale and complexity of the estate he now controlled, the clearer it became that the story of the duchy was far larger than most people outside the royal world ever realized. Behind the impressive castles and sweeping countryside lies a complex web of wealth and influence. Could William's leadership of the Duchy of Cornwall reveal forces that have quietly shaped the monarchy for centuries? Keep watching. The 7th century fortune behind the title to truly understand the responsibility now resting on Prince William's shoulders, it helps to step back and examine the remarkable history behind the estate he now controls. The Duchy of Cornwall is far more than a large inheritance of land. It is a financial and historical institution that has been growing quietly for centuries. Its origins trace back to the year 1337, when King Edward III created the duchy for his eldest son, Edward, the Black Prince. At that moment, a royal tradition was established that would endure for nearly 700 years. The charter declared that the Duchy of Cornwall would always belong to the monarch's eldest surviving son and heir to the throne. With that decision, a permanent economic foundation was created for future heirs of the British crown. Over the centuries, generation after generation expanded the estate. New lands were acquired, farms were developed, and investments steadily grew. What began as a medieval grant of territory gradually transformed into one of the most remarkable private estates in the world. By the time William inherited it, the duchy had become a vast network of land, businesses, and financial assets spread across England. Unlike royal palaces, which belong to the state, the duchy operates more like a powerful private enterprise. Its lands support hundreds of tenant farmers who live and work on properties connected to the estate. Agricultural fields stretch across wide areas of countryside, producing food while also generating rental income that flows back into the duchy's finances. Tourism also contributes to the estate's income. Holiday cottages situated on duchy lands welcome visitors who wish to experience the scenery and traditions of rural England. These cottages are carefully maintained and are often located in some of the country's most picturesque areas, drawing guests from across Britain as well as international travelers. In addition to farms and holiday properties, the duchy also holds financial investments that have been built and managed over many years. Together, these different streams of revenue create a steady financial flow that supports both the public and private responsibilities of the heir to the throne. The scale of that income can be surprising. Reports suggest that by 2025, William received roughly $30 million generated through the duchy's operations. This money is not simply used for personal spending. Instead, it helps fund his official duties, his household, and the many obligations that come with representing the monarchy both within Britain and abroad. One of the most distinctive features of the duchy is the way its ownership moves from generation to generation. Unlike ordinary estates that may be divided among heirs or sold over time, the Duchy of Cornwall follows a strict rule that has remained unchanged since the 14th century. Whenever a new monarch ascends the throne, the estate automatically passes to the next heir in line. There are no negotiations and no delays. The transfer occurs immediately. That is exactly what happened when King Charles III became monarch in 2022. In an instant, the duchy moved directly into Prince William's control. The land, the businesses, and centuries of accumulated wealth all became his responsibility. Yet even this remarkable estate is only one part of a much larger royal property network. Beyond the duchy lie other estates that hold enormous financial and symbolic importance for the monarchy, properties that have long served as private sanctuaries for the royal family, and that may one day come under William's authority as well. Could Prince William ultimately control them all? Or do some of these private kingdoms carry influence even he may struggle to command? Stay with us. The private kingdoms behind royal power. Although the Duchy of Cornwall provides a powerful financial foundation for the heir to the throne, it represents only part of the broader picture. Hidden behind the public image of royal palaces and official residences are two estates that carry even deeper personal significance for the monarchy. These properties are not owned by the British state. Instead, they belong directly to the reigning monarch and quietly pass from one sovereign to the next. Within royal circles, control of these estates can hold tremendous influence. The two properties at the heart of this tradition are Sandringham House in Norfolk and Balmoral Castle in the Scottish Highlands. For generations, these estates have served as private retreats where members of the royal family could escape the pressures of public life. Unlike ceremonial palaces such as Buckingham Palace, which belong to the crown and are used for official functions, Sandringham and Balmoral are personal possessions. Their ownership follows the royal family's line of inheritance rather than being managed by the government. Balmoral Castle carries a particularly rich history dating back to the 19th century. The estate was purchased by Prince Albert as a gift for his wife, Queen Victoria. From the moment Victoria first experienced the dramatic landscapes of the Scottish Highlands, she developed a deep affection for the region. Balmoral soon became a cherished retreat for the royal family, a place where they could spend time together away from London and the constant attention of the public. Sandringham House, located in the quiet countryside of Norfolk, developed a similar reputation over time. It became closely associated with royal traditions, particularly during the Christmas season when generations of monarchs gathered there with family and close friends. These estates have witnessed countless private moments in royal history, moments of celebration, reflection, and sometimes grief. Both properties eventually passed to Queen Elizabeth II, who inherited them from her father, King George VI. Throughout her long reign, Balmoral and Sandringham remained central to her life. They were places where she could ride horses, walk through the countryside, and spend time with family far from the formal demands of the monarchy. When Elizabeth passed away in 2022 at Balmoral Castle, ownership of these deeply personal estates once again transferred to the next monarch. They became the private property of King Charles III. Today, Charles and Queen Camilla spend time at both locations. Sandringham continues to host royal family gatherings and remains one of the most recognizable countryside retreats associated with the monarchy. Balmoral, surrounded by vast forests and the rugged landscapes of Scotland, still holds its reputation as a peaceful sanctuary for the royal household. Yet the story of these estates does not end with the current king. Royal inheritance follows a long chain that moves from one generation to the next. When the time eventually comes for the crown to pass again, these properties will follow that same path. This means that one day Sandringham House and Balmoral Castle are expected to pass into the hands of Prince William when he becomes king. Control of these estates would place some of the monarchy's most treasured private lands under his authority, and within royal circles, influence over such places can determine who holds power, who is welcomed into those spaces, and who may quietly find themselves standing outside their gates. This reality raises an important question about the future, because while Camilla currently shares access to these estates as the king's wife, the moment ownership changes again could reshape her position in ways that remain uncertain. When Prince William eventually inherits Sandringham and Balmoral, will centuries of tradition subtly shift? Who will rise in influence, and who might find themselves pushed to the sidelines? Could a single unexpected decision reshape royal dynamics forever? Stay tuned. A powerful role today, an uncertain tomorrow. At this moment, Queen Camilla holds one of the most secure positions within the British royal family. As the wife of King Charles III, she carries the title of Queen Consort and stands beside the monarch in both ceremonial and public life. Her role has gradually evolved over the years. Once a controversial figure during the early years of her relationship with Charles, she has since become a central presence within the modern monarchy. Today, she regularly appears at royal engagements, supports numerous charitable causes, and shares many of the responsibilities that come with assisting the king in his duties. Her everyday life now unfolds inside some of the most recognizable royal residences in Britain. Among them is Buckingham Palace, the historic center of the monarchy where major state ceremonies, official receptions, and important national events are held. Another key residence linked to the royal couple is Clarence House, an elegant London home that has long served as King Charles's personal residence. These locations form the heart of the royal household, where the king and queen carry out much of their official work. For Camilla, however, the path to this position has not been an easy one. Long before she became queen consort, she lived a far quieter life outside the structured world of the royal court. One property closely connected to that earlier chapter was Mill House, a countryside residence she owned in Wiltshire. The home became known as her personal refuge, a peaceful retreat where she could enjoy gardening and spend time away from the intense attention that surrounds royal life. In recent years, though, Camilla chose to sell Mill House. Some observers interpreted the decision as a sign that she was fully embracing her role within the royal household alongside Charles. Others viewed it as a practical move, reflecting how her duties as queen consort had expanded and now required her to spend more time within official royal residences. For the moment, her position appears secure and widely supported. As long as King Charles III remains on the throne, Camilla shares in the influence and privileges that come with being the monarch's wife. She moves comfortably between royal residences such as Buckingham Palace, Clarence House, and the countryside estates belonging to the crown. Yet, throughout history, the royal family has always been shaped by the passage of time and the inevitable transitions between generations. If the day were to come when Charles passed away before Camilla, her role would change once again. In that situation, she would most likely hold the title of Queen Dowager, a designation traditionally given to the widow of a king. Such a transition would also affect ownership of some of the monarchy's most significant private estates. Properties such as Sandringham House and Balmoral Castle do not remain with the spouse of a former monarch. Instead, they pass directly to the next reigning king. This means they would eventually fall under the authority of Prince William when he inherits the throne. In practical terms, William would then determine how those estates are used and who spends time there. Camilla could certainly continue to visit as a member of the family, but her presence would no longer come from ownership or authority. Instead, it would depend on the goodwill of the next monarch. This possibility helps explain why William's current approach to managing royal estates is attracting such attention. Every decision he makes today offers a small preview of how he might one day lead the monarchy and shape the environment surrounding it. As William weighs control over centuries-old estates, each choice sends subtle ripples through palace corridors. Will long-standing traditions adapt to a new vision, or could these quiet adjustments mark the beginning of a monarchy transformed for the future? Stay with us. The subtle shift signaling a new era, some of the most meaningful changes within the royal family rarely appear in dramatic headlines. Instead, they unfold quietly behind palace doors, in meetings, financial reviews, and staffing decisions that most outsiders never notice. Yet for those who observe closely, these seemingly small actions can reveal a great deal about where the monarchy is heading. For Prince William, inheriting the Duchy of Cornwall brought more than responsibility. It also gave him an opportunity to begin shaping his own approach to royal leadership. Since assuming control, William has carefully reorganized aspects of the duchy's management. Positions once held by longtime associates of King Charles III and individuals connected to Queen Camilla's family have been reassessed. At the same time, new figures have appeared in positions of influence, trusted friends and close confidants, such as Harry Aubrey Fletcher and William Van Cutsum. Their involvement reflects a quiet but unmistakable shift. William is surrounding himself with people whose priorities align with his own vision, building a team based on both personal trust and professional capability. Observers note that this shift should not necessarily be interpreted as revenge or hostility toward Camilla or her relatives. Rather, it appears to be a deliberate display of leadership and independence. William is quietly laying the foundation for how he intends to manage royal estates, financial responsibilities, and ultimately the monarchy itself. Every decision, from payroll adjustments to staffing appointments, sends a subtle message that the next generation of leadership is beginning to assert its presence. This transition is not only about personnel, it also reflects a shift in values. By choosing who occupies key roles, William is signaling the type of monarchy he hopes to shape, one that combines tradition with efficiency, careful stewardship with modern management, and private discretion with public accountability. On paper, the reshuffling of the duchy may look like routine administration, but its effects reach far beyond the estate itself. Individuals who once relied on relationships formed during Charles's decades-long stewardship now face a period of uncertainty. The situation highlights the delicate balance between continuity and change that has always defined royal life. In many ways, William's actions illustrate a quiet but unmistakable reality. The era in which Charles's close circle oversaw the duchy and its surrounding estates is gradually giving way to a new chapter under William's leadership. This careful, almost invisible, shift marks the beginning of a generational transition. The monarchy is evolving, and the decisions made today are already shaping how power, influence, and legacy will be handled for years to come. So what do you think? Could William's assertive approach help modernize the monarchy, or might it quietly deepen divisions within the royal family? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories exploring the hidden dynamics behind the world's most famous royal family.